It's the first full week of the 2019 college football season, and they're getting us started with 5 straight days of games kicking off this Thursday night and running all the way through Monday, the Labor Day holiday, right? And that means 3 straight days of Uncle Lou preview and prediction videos. We're going to kick it off today with a preview and prediction against the spread for all the SEC games this week. Let's go. It's Uncle Lou here. For those of you that can't read, yep, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today, so thanks for watching. I'm so excited. I mean, we were excited last week, right, because at least they gave us a couple of week 0 games, the big Florida versus Miami, but everybody's playing this week. This is the first full week of college football season, and for the last couple of years on this channel, I've been doing the same things on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we're going to continue it this year. I'm going to put the schedule up on the screen, and this schedule is not going to change all season long. So you can pause the video and look at this schedule and you'll know what days every video is coming out every week during the season. But today's Tuesday. That means we're going to preview all the SEC games for this week. I'm going to briefly talk about each game, preview them a little bit, and then I'm going to give you a prediction against the spread. As usual, this year, all of my preview and prediction videos are going to be sponsored by the good people over at betnow.eu. There's a link in the description of this video. If you click that link, it'll take you over to betnow.eu. It's really easy to get signed up. I made a video last week on sort of how to go about getting signed up on there and sort of understanding some of the phrases and terminology that we use when we're talking about betting on sports that maybe not all people who follow sports are familiar with. I'll put a link to that video up here somewhere and you can check it out now. All the point spreads, odds, lines, money lines, over-unders, all that kind of stuff that I mentioned in these preview and prediction videos are going to come straight from betnow.eu. They're accurate as of this morning at about 9 a.m. Today's Tuesday, so they were accurate this morning around 9 a.m. When you get signed up over there, there's a promo code they've given me to let you guys use. It's Uncle Lou, and that's all one word. Enter that promo code when you get signed up, and now through September 16th, they're going to give you a 100% bonus on whatever you deposit. Good luck. All right, here we go. The Week 1 SEC schedule gets kicked off this week on Thursday night. 8:30 over on the SEC Network. We have Texas State on the road taking on the Aggies of Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 33.5-point favorite in this game. Let me give a brief disclaimer here on these high point spreads that you see a lot of times when you have these Power 5 teams playing these lower classification schools. It's really hard to figure out which way to go on these games for a variety of reasons. Do I think Texas A&M is 33.5 points better than Texas State? Absolutely. The problem is you have to look at some things other than that. For example, If Texas A&M is up 35-0 at some point in the third quarter, what are the odds that they pull most of their starters, put backups and reserves in? You see that a lot of times in blowouts. You especially see it a lot of time when these bigger name schools are taking on the lower classification schools. So Texas A&M could be up huge in the third quarter. They pull everybody out. Texas State scores a touchdown or two, ruins that 33.5 for you. So it's dangerous in my mind to ever take a team with a spread this high. The other issue is, of course, Texas A&M has to play a huge game next weekend on the road at Clemson. How much time, energy, and effort has the coaching staff and the players really put into this game against Texas State? We don't know. Now, I'm not suggesting that they completely overlooked Texas State and haven't practiced or prepared for them at all, but the reality is it's hard not to know what that big game is that's looming the following week, and you wonder what effect, if any, that might have on Texas A&M, both in preparation and what happens during the game. Again, if they get a big lead, do they really want to risk injuring Kellen Mond in the second half of this game if they're up by, 20 or 30 points? I don't know. For that reason, I'm going to take Texas State in this game. They're not a very good team. I do think Texas A&M is way better than Texas State, and if they went full throttle for 4 quarters, there's no doubt in my mind Texas A&M would beat them by 40 or 50 points. However, for the reasons that I just stated, I'm going to take Texas State in this game and the 33.5 points. All right, the rest of the SEC teams are playing on Saturday. We got some games kicking off at noon, running all the way up through to some nighttime games, so we're just going to go in chronological order here, starting with the early kickoffs. You got Toledo on the road at Kentucky. Kentucky's a 12-point favorite. This game comes on at noon over on the SEC network. There's a couple of theories in gambling. One of them is that your best opportunity to make some money against the house is early in the season. The longer the season goes on, the more accurate these casinos and bookies and online sites and stuff like that, the more accurate their numbers become. 12 points. I've been higher on Kentucky than most other people this offseason. There's a lot of people that think Kentucky are just going to fall off the face of the earth this year after losing Benny Snell and Josh Allen. I mean, listen, those were 2 all-time great players for Kentucky. I don't think they're replacing either of those 2 guys, but I just think overall Kentucky's team top to bottom is better right now than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. Forget about Snell and Allen. I just think Kentucky is in a better place right now overall than they were even 2 years ago. I've been higher on Kentucky than everybody else is. This is under 2 touchdowns. Couldn't you easily see Kentucky winning this game 28-14, 35-20, something like that? I'm going to go with my gut and my instinct on this one. I've been high on Kentucky. I'm going to ride that all the way into week 1 until I'm proven wrong. These numbers are based on what the general public seems to think about a game. Now, Bet Now, whoever, will set an initial line. But as money is placed on that game, the line can move up or down. So 12 points is a general consensus of where people think Kentucky is. I'm much higher than the general consensus on Kentucky this year. So for that reason, Kentucky's at home. I'm going to lay these 12 points. Give me the Wildcats at home to win by more than 12. All right, 12 o'clock over on ABC, probably the best of the noon games here. This is going to be a good game, and this is one that could truly go either way in my mind. But you've got Ole Miss taking on Memphis. Memphis is no joke. There are a lot of people who think Memphis could be the best group of 5 team this year. I disagree with that, although I still think they're really, really good. I just think there's a team or 2 in the group of 5 that's going to be a little bit better. Memphis is actually a favorite in this game. They're a 5.5-point favorite, so just under a touchdown favorite here. Most people, I think, at least from what I've heard through the channel and the comment section and phone calls that I've gotten, think Memphis is indeed going to win this game. I would not be shocked if that's what happens. I think Ole Miss is going to be better than they were last year, but their defense is still miles away from where it needs to be. I don't normally play over-unders for the purposes of these videos, but I just honestly can't decide which way to go on this line at 5.5. I could honestly see this being like a 3 or 4 point game either way. I'm not confident on either side really to play this 5.5 either way. However, the over-under is at 68. I'm going to take the over 68 in this game. I can see both of these teams getting into the 40s. I think this is going to be a track meet type of game. I do think Ole Miss's offense is going to move the ball and put up some serious yards and points. Same thing for Memphis because Ole Miss's defense is just that bad. So rather than playing the spread in this game and taking Memphis or Ole Miss on either side of this 5.5, sign me up for the over 68. All right, how about Mississippi State taking on Louisiana Lafayette at noon over on ESPN? What a boring, no need to watch game this will be, right? Mississippi State is a 20.5 point favorite. I love playing favorites that are just under a touchdown number, just under 7, just under 14, just under 21. I do think Mississippi State is the better team here. They lost some talent on defense, but I still think Mississippi State is going to have one of the best 4 or 5 defenses in the SEC this year. You're not going to change my mind on that. I do have some serious question marks about Mississippi State's head coach in terms of his longevity at Mississippi State. I'm not convinced he was the right guy for that job. However, Louisiana Lafayette is just not a very good team. You have to imagine Mississippi State's going to be a little bit better overall than they were last year now that they're in year 2 of this new coaching staff. And Mississippi State beat Louisiana Lafayette last year 56-10. So beat them by 46 points last year. I can get Mississippi State this year for less than half of that at 20.5, and it's just under that 3 touchdown mark. Give me Mississippi State to get the win here and cover the 20.5. All right, 3:30, Duke versus Bama on ABC. A lot of the same stuff I said about Texas State and Texas A&M is going to apply to this game right here. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not playing this game, and I would not bet this game. Alabama's a 35-point favorite, ranked number 2 in the nation behind Clemson. Duke, not a very good team last year, and that was with Daniel Jones. Hard to imagine Duke being any better this year without Daniel Jones. But we saw what happened last year when Alabama got out to these huge leads against inferior opponents, right? They pulled Tua out and they put Jalen Hurts in. Now, Jalen Hurts is a more than capable quarterback. He's got a ton of wins in the SEC, starting for Alabama for almost 2 full seasons. Alabama doesn't have that luxury at backup quarterback this year. I still think they're going to pull Tua out in the second half of this game and every game where they're up by a bunch of points because, well, let's be real, Tua is the softest player in the history of college football. They can't risk him getting injured. This game is going to be a runaway in the second half in my mind. Duke has no business competing with Alabama, and I don't think they will. I don't even think this will be the case where, sometimes people like to say, oh, I can see them keeping it close maybe in the first quarter or the first half, but such and such team will pull away in the second half. No, Alabama will pull away in the first quarter of this one. This will be an absolute massacre, but it's a 35-point spread. I can't play that. I mean, I can see Alabama being up something like 42-10 in the second half and pulling all the starters and putting Mac Jones or Tua's little brother in and the offense not doing much or whatever. I don't know. So I'm just not going to play that game at all. Obviously, Alabama will win and win big, but for betting purposes, I would stay away. All right, 3:30 over on ESPN, you got South Carolina versus North Carolina. This will be a good game, I think. Now, North Carolina, year 1 under Mac Brown, one of the worst teams in the Power 5 last year. Now, I do think Mac Brown brings some excitement and some energy back to that North Carolina program. And it's not like North Carolina's been terrible forever, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. They played Clemson in an ACC conference title game and nearly beat them. In fact, maybe could have beat them if it wasn't for a terrible offsides call. North Carolina kicked an onside kick. They recovered it. They were nowhere close to being offsides. However, the officials called it. It was one of the worst calls I've seen. But they did. I mean, that seems like forever ago now. I think that was 2015, though. But in any case, they are a bad team. I do think Mac Brown will juice them up a little bit. Not enough to beat South Carolina. When you look at South Carolina, especially this year, there are a handful of games that South Carolina absolutely has to win if they've got any chance of making a bowl game this year. Not because South Carolina is so bad that, they may not make a bowl. Their schedule is just absolutely brutal. This is one of the easier games on South Carolina's schedule. Honestly, they have to play at Georgia. They play Alabama. They play Clemson. They play Texas A&M. They play Florida. They play Missouri. Those are all teams that, in my mind, are truly better than South Carolina. South Carolina has got to win the games against everybody that is inferior to them. That includes North Carolina. And they may have to upset one of those big boys if they really hope to make it to 6 or 7 wins this year. South Carolina has had a lot of luck in opening week games against the ACC and just out-of-conference opponents in general lately. I like South Carolina to win this game and cover the 10. I just don't think North Carolina is anywhere close to being as talented as South Carolina. And while Mack Brown is a national championship winning coach with his time at Texas, and of course has roots in North Carolina, having coached there decades ago, I just don't think he alone is enough to elevate North Carolina to the point they would need to be to compete with a South Carolina. Give me the Game Chickens, lay to 10 points. Man, this is an interesting one here to me. Georgia State on the road at Tennessee, 3:30 on ESPNU. Tennessee is a 26-point favorite in this one. I wonder how long it's been since Tennessee has been a 26-point favorite. Something tells me it's been a while. A lot of the same things I said about South Carolina, you can apply to Tennessee. Tennessee's got a pretty tough schedule too. Of course, they got to play Alabama and Georgia, right? They play Florida, Mizzou, South Carolina, Kentucky. They've got a couple of non-con games that, while I don't think are a BYU and UAB. Let's just be honest, the possibility I think exists for Tennessee to lose one of those games to UAB or BYU. I think they'll be favored in both of those games, and I won't be shocked if they win them, and I think they're better than both of those teams. But we've been watching Tennessee lose a lot of head-scratching games over the last 10 years. This is a game Tennessee absolutely has to win. They're breaking in a lot of new parts and pieces, especially on the offensive line. 2 new offensive tackles. Their defensive line is sort of a work in progress. I think Tennessee is going to come out with a point to prove here. Now, Tennessee is a team that I don't think Tennessee would pull their starters in the second half if they were up by, say, 3 scores. I think Tennessee, more than anything else, needs game time experience. They've got some talent on that team. A lot of that talent not used to winning. I can see a situation where Tennessee, even if they're up 3 or 4 scores in the second half, leaves the majority of their starters in. It's at home for Tennessee. They haven't had many wins at all over the last few years. They especially haven't had many big wins. They're going to give the crowd something to see, I think, here on opening day, even though it is against a terrible Georgia State team. I'm going to take Tennessee and lay the 26 here. I could see Tennessee winning this game by 4 scores, 28, 31 points, somewhere in that range here. Couldn't you easily see this game being like 48-10, something like that? That would be a 38-point win for Tennessee. They're only favored by 26. That's less than 4 touchdowns. Give me the Vols, lay to 26. Here's another. This one might shock you too. Portland State at Arkansas. This one comes on at 4 o'clock over on the SEC Network. Arkansas is a 28.5-point favorite. Now remember, this is a 2-win team from last year. They got blown out by, was it North Texas? Somebody like that. A terrible team. Portland was terrible too, though. Portland State gave up 60 points or more multiple times last year, at least 3 that I know of, maybe more. They're absolutely horrible. If you're looking for a team that's worse than Arkansas, you found it in Portland State. I think Arkansas is going to be a lot better this year. I think they brought in some new pieces this year through recruiting and transfers under Chad Morris. I think they're going to take a huge step forward offensively. Defense, we'll sort of see, but again, it's Portland State. I'm actually going to take Arkansas here and lay the 28.5. I think Arkansas is going to absolutely destroy Portland State. To be honest with you, I could see this being something like a 50-point win for Arkansas. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trolling. Of course, trolls are undefeated, but I'm not trolling. I honestly think Arkansas could win this game something like 56-6, 56-10, somewhere in that range there. I don't think this is going to be any type of contest at all. Give me the Arkansas Pig Sueys, lay to 28.5. All right, my Georgia Bulldogs take on Vandy on the road in an SEC versus SEC matchup. This is the only SEC versus SEC matchup we get this week. This one's 7:30 over on the SEC Network. I hope you were paying attention to me last week when I did that Sports Betting 101 video where I walked you guys through how to get set up on BetNow and all that. And I mentioned UGA was currently a 20.5-point favorite over Vandy. And I said, you better jump on that right now because it's going to go over that magic number of 21. I talked a little while ago about how people really like betting a number when it's just below a touchdown. 20.5, of course, just under 21, which would be 3 touchdowns. When I looked this morning, that line has moved a full point up. It's now 21.5. I'm not taking Georgia at 21.5 in this game for a variety of reasons. I took it at 20.5. I got it locked in last week. I'm not even convinced on that anymore, though, at this point. It looks like DeAndre Swift is not going to play. If he does play, it won't be much at all in this game. He may not even travel, actually. He hasn't practiced this week. He's got what Kirby is calling an upper body injury. And I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about DeAndre Swift. He might be the UGA version of Tua Tagovailoa. I love DeAndre Swift. He's one of the most exciting running backs in all of college football. Tua is one of the most exciting quarterbacks in all of college football. Neither one of these guys can stay healthy for any extended period of time at all. Swift spent the entire first half of last season nursing a hamstring injury. And I don't know what's going on. Upper body injury, that's all they're saying. He may not play. That's going to leave us with, I guess, probably Brian Herrien as a starting running back. The number 2 would maybe be Zamir White, a guy that's coming off back-to-back ACL surgeries. I have a lot of hope and expectations for Zamir White, but we got to see him do something, right? James Cook, the running back situation, if Swift doesn't play, is a little iffy heading into this game. In no scenario do I see Vandy winning this game, but because the number has gone over 21 to 21 and a half, and some injuries are stacking up. Nakobe Dean might not play. Jamari Sawyer might not play. There's just a handful of guys for Georgia that are banged up and may not play in this game. It's on the road at Vandy. Could Georgia win this game 45-10, which is about how bad they beat Vandy the last couple of years? Obviously, they could. But DeAndre Swift, it's on the road. It's over the 3-touchdown mark. If you're looking for any advice from me on this game, though, I would take Vandy in the 21.5, although I'm staying away. Georgia Southern on the road at LSU. LSU's a 27.5 point favorite. They're ranked number 6 in the country, of course. This game comes on 7:30 over at ESPNU. 27.5. I really wish this was 28.5. I'm going with Georgia Southern here. I'm sort of breaking my own rule. 27.5 is just under a 4-touchdown mark. Georgia Southern's not going to beat LSU. LSU is way better than Georgia Southern. It's just we see it time and time again with these option teams. It's just hard for any team, whether it's LSU or anybody, to play against an option offense. They don't ever play against them any other time. It's not something they're used to. The cut blocks, the chop blocks, the misdirection, the speed to which these triple option offenses are able to operate. We see it throw teams for a loop time and time and time and time again. We saw Army almost beat Oklahoma. Was it last year or the year before? We saw the same Georgia Southern team give Alabama some trouble in the first half. Last year, it just seems to happen all the time. LSU is obviously going to win this game. I think Georgia Southern's going to play keep away with this option offense, try to chew up some clock, keep LSU's offense off the field. Now, I don't expect Georgia Southern to just march up and down the field scoring touchdowns here, but I do think the majority of the time Georgia Southern gets the ball, they're going to put together at least 3 or 4 first downs, chew a lot of time off the clock. Maybe those drives end in a couple of field goals. Even if they end in punts, like I said, they've taken a bunch of time off the clock, which is going to limit the number of LSU possessions. Again, it could be a scenario where LSU takes some players out in the second half. If this is a 3 or 4 score game, which would give Georgia Southern an opportunity maybe to score late and cover this 27.5, I expect LSU to win comfortably, but I'm going to take Georgia Southern here and give me the 27.5 points. All right, probably the biggest game of the day, right? Number 11, Oregon on the road at number 16, Auburn. 7:30 over on ABC. Auburn's a 3.5 point favorite in this one. When I did my preview and prediction videos, I went with the barn in this one. They have since announced that Bo Nix is going to be their starting quarterback, true freshman. First true freshman, I think, to start at Auburn for quarterback since the 1940s. Is that what I read? So we'll see. We all know when it comes to a Gus Malzahn team, and particularly a Gus Malzahn offense, they're only as good as their quarterback play. Jarrett Stidbaloney had a pretty good season in 2017, and we saw the type of season Auburn had. He had a terrible season in 2018, and Auburn fell off the cliff, even finding a way to lose to Tennessee. This game is very hard to pick for that reason. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. You got to give the quarterback advantage, I think, to Oregon. They have Justin Herbert. He's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft on every expert's board, right? I don't care what you think about him or the Pac-12. The guy knows what he's doing. You at least have an experienced guy that you know can lead your offense if you're Oregon. With Auburn, it's a question mark until we see Bo Nix get out there and do it. The strong suit for Auburn, of course, defense, particularly the defensive line. This is going to be one hell of a matchup to watch here. This is probably, if not the best, one of the best defensive lines in all of college football with Auburn, and one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines at Oregon. I think whoever wins that matchup probably wins this game. I can see this being a close game, maybe something similar to what we saw with Auburn and Washington last year, 3.5 points. Do I think it's possible Oregon wins this game? Of course I do. I obviously think it's possible Oregon wins this game. I'm going to stick with my pick in terms of who wins. I think Auburn finds a way to pull it out. But for For betting purposes, I'm going to take Oregon in the 3.5 points. Maybe Auburn wins 23-20, 27-24, 31-28, something like that. Give me Oregon in the 3.5 points, but I do think the barn finds a way to win. All right, last game we have for this week, Missouri on the road at Wyoming, 7:30 on the CBS Sports Network. Missouri is a 17.5 point favorite. This is free money, in my opinion. Missouri, give me Missouri late at 17.5. I think Missouri wins this game somewhere between 30 and 40 points. I'm big on Missouri this year. I think if their defense is even a little bit better than what it was last year, Missouri could win 9 or 10 games this year. They're going to get their first one this week on the road at Wyoming. Missouri beat the bejesus out of them last year, 40-13. How many points is that? 23? That's 27 points. Do you think Missouri is going to be better this year or worse? What about Wyoming? Missouri beat them by 27 last year. They only have to beat them by 17.5 to cover here. I'm going to take Missouri into 17.5. I think this is probably the best bet on the board, in my opinion. The Missouri minus 17.5. Missouri minus 17.5 and Kentucky minus 12 are my two favorite plays of all these SEC games. So I think last year I did like a lock of the week segment at the end of every week or whatever. I'll probably do that again this year. But right now, the games I've reviewed so far, which is just the SEC games, I really like Kentucky minus 12. I really like Mizzou minus 17.5. Anyway, that's the first preview video for the 2019 college football season. Let's make some money. Get on over to betnow.eu. Get yourself signed up. It's really easy. Like I said, they're going to match your deposit 100% between now and September 16th. So get yourself signed up over there. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another preview video. We're going to do the top 25 tomorrow. So everybody in the top 25, except the SEC teams, because I've already done them, will be previewed in tomorrow's video. Appreciate you guys watching and have a great morning.